For those of you that are joining us for the first time today, Biachad Together was created with one mission: to elevate individuals, communities, and institutions with Jewish wisdom for all people. And I'm delighted to say that over 50,000 registrations later and 150 plus conversations, we are reaching over 20 countries and all 50 states. And almost daily now, I hear from people, "Oh, aren't you the rabbi from Biachad?" And I'll be somewhere. It's just so fun. Not the part about being recognized, but that it's touching so many people's lives, especially bringing Jewish wisdom to all. And as you know, about 20% of our audience is not Jewish. So if you are not part of the Jewish tradition, we especially welcome you. We're so glad you're here. So as you're finding your way into the room and getting comfortable, I hope you give yourself the next 45 minutes to just take a deep breath. This has been a stressful week for everyone. You can feel everybody's amped up and excited, and there's a lot of energy as we leave Yom Kippur and move into Sukkot. It's very rushed with no weekend in between. So if you're building a Sukkah like we are at our house, it's pretty crazy. With that, I am thrilled, beyond thrilled, not even beyond thrilled to introduce our guest this afternoon, Stacy Katz. Not just because she is the founder and co-inventor of one of the best-selling family card games in history. I mean, I'm going to ask her that. Like, it's craziness what's happened with Not Parent Approved, like beyond your wildest imaginations. But because she is a dear friend of mine since we were 12 years old. And this week we're doing Holiday Hacks, which is all about how camp and how those silly, joyful, powerful experiences of camp really can be transcended and be worked into your Jewish holidays. And Stacy and I met at Camp Ramah when we were 12 years old. Right, Stace?
Absolutely.
It was crazy. First of all, I want to just say welcome. I'm so happy to have you on the platform.
It's such an honor. And whether we're 12 or lots over 12, it is just really exciting to be on any journey with you.
Yeah. Feelings are the same. Just to give a word of wise, Stacy is truly a pivoter and a Renaissance woman. And you would know that because she spent a 20 plus career leading public relations for startups and global companies such as Hewlett Packard, Verizon, Vivendi, and more. And she took this communications experience and translated it into a lifestyle brand that's earned over 11 toy awards, which, if you know the toy industry, is one of the hardest industries out there. She's gotten recognized by everyone from Oprah's company, The Today Show, Fox News, Real Simple, Forbes, USA Today, and many more. I'm going to ask her specifically why she developed Not Parent Approved and how she pivoted, not just during this pandemic, but in her life to bring meaning, and how her Jewish values inform that. But what I want you most to know about her is that she has a heart of gold, and that you can see it in every card when you play Not Parent Approved. And whether you know her or whether you don't know her personally, you can feel the love that she's put into this game. And so I'm so excited to have her for Holiday Hacks, and we're going to get right into it. So Stacy, okay, yes. Tell us what happened. What happened? Why did you start Not Parent Approved?
This is Not Parent Approved.
Oh, good. We even have a visual.
Excellent. And a fun fact, the little blonde one is my son, Bailey.
And fun fact, he's like my adopted son.
Yes, and who doesn't look that little anymore. But about 4 or 5 years ago, in 2016, he had run away from me at one of those back to school nights where it's just chaos and you're trying to get to every teacher and he thinks it's just a great way to just play with everybody. So I said to him, you know, the one thing is you can't run away. So what happened? He ran away. So I punished him for the weekend, and the only tool we have these days is screen banning, as I'm sure many of you can relate. And he had 2 play dates with what, like really on it parents, like helicopter parents who always have plans. And they said to me, you have to take the kids if you want them to hang out because we are exhausted. No parent was up for a bike ride or a hike, including me. So I said, okay, well, that's interesting. So I took them. We went to this avant-garde board game store, and I asked the clerk, what's the most popular for this age range? They picked out, $70 worth of games. I realized the irony in spending $70 on new games for a punished kid, but desperate times. And I said, I just want something really simple, something relaxing. Well, they picked whatever they picked. They came home. It took 15 minutes to learn the rules. At minute 20, they're throwing the pieces at each other's head and telling me that they're bored and they have nothing to do. And it was really this aha moment that offline games, even the most popular ones, couldn't compete with the allure and the instant jolt of apps and screen time. And many of you may be aware of an awesome adult party game called Cards Against Humanity, where there's this feeling,
which is not a game for
no,
10 to 12-year-olds.
No, it's the opposite of that. But there's this, you can get in, you get out, you learn the rules, in 30 seconds, and it's just a stress relief and a good time, and everybody just laughs. So I wanted to create something that had that ethos, that essence, but that was really relevant to about 8 to 12, 13. And so that's what inspired Not Parent Approved.
Wait, and I think what's so fascinating about it was that what you intended to do was punish him, and what ended up happening is you were like, oh my God, this punishment is more of a punishment for me.
Yes.
Right? And you had no experience in the game industry, correct?
None. But what I did have is my specialty was consumer tech public relations. And I have been part of sort of entrepreneurial culture for many years. And what I did know is that most people don't know, and they do it anyways. And I think that was so that didn't prevent me from just putting one foot in front of the other. And to be honest with you, I didn't start it to create a, commercial success. I did it to play with, we had them on index cards, with stickers to delineate the front and the back. It wasn't, it was one step. And I think that's really important for people to realize if they're creating their own ideas.
Right. I think there's this idea that you have to have this big, magnificent idea that's going to blow it out of the water. And sometimes the most simplest sort of, I've got to solve this problem, which I've punished my kid, and now I've got to actually go through with it. Right. And I think one of the reasons we wanted to have this holiday hacks is because people are really struggling with all this time alone with their kids. Right? It's like we wanted a little more time, but we don't want to be stranded with them.
Yeah.
So tell me, you didn't grow up with technology. I know, because I grew up with you.
Dating me, yes.
Tell me how this game is solving a problem that you think is maybe ubiquitous in the world.
That's great. When I started this, I really thought, kids are born screenagers, and they're born into technology world, and kids are screen addicted, right? And it's that thing where they tune you out. You're saying it's dinner, it's dinner, it's dinner. Nothing's happening. But what I realized was the games my son wanted to play with me and our kids want to play with us, we don't want to play with them. Like, he wants me to learn like these deep lore and Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering. And, we just, as adults, we just don't have the time, the energy, and often, I'll speak for myself, the interest. So I think what's really important is to look to what's going to be fun for the family unit. Because what's important is playing together. And that is something that is not easy to find. I mean, I've been in the toy industry for 5 years. It's still something that will please the 8-year-old, your 15-year-old, grandma, and yourself, let alone even just one of those demos, is really hard. And so as we're all stuck together, I think it's really kind of important and special to try to figure out what as a unit could be entertaining. That's not easy.
No, and this idea of play is foundational, not just discovered recently by psychologists and psychiatrists, but throughout the tradition of Judaism, we are commanded to rejoice and to be joyful. And when we were at camp, play was endemic to the life we led. And now play is something we have to manufacture, right? Something that we have to create. And you just made a really beautiful point that how do you find play that you can all enjoy? So let's take a moment, because we're going to talk a lot about Sukkot and your Jewish upbringing, but I'm dying to play for a second, because it's been a little bit, as you can see, I'm having a little bit of issues with our internet today. So I need a little bit of play in my own life. So take us through how it works, and maybe we can see in a visual of how it runs down, how the game works.
Yeah, it's really simple. Basically, you get, we have about 455 cards in the deck. The blue ones are the question cards, which we'll go through. And then we have the red ones, which are the answer cards. We made them deliberately smaller than traditional playing cards. So littler, because you start with 7 red cards. And so little hands can hold them.
So everything about this was very intentional.
Yes, it's really about, well, the goal was like you can play with your friends, and you're going to want to play with your friends, and a parent doesn't have to get involved if you don't want to. I really, there's a lot of like 5 and under games, but to find something that's really relevant for, elementary school, it was really challenging. So basically, one of the ways to sort of pattern interrupt and get him off the screen was I told him, well, you can stay up on the screen, but I'm going downstairs with your buddy, and we're going to have a burp contest to see who goes first. And,
right. And what 10-year-old does not want a burp contest?
Well, and it's just a shocking thing for a mom to say, which is, okay, we're going to go start a burp contest, and I think I'm going to win. That's kind of like, oh, now you have my attention. So we start with a burp off, real or fake. And that's really fun because it's always somewhat surprising. Sometimes grandpa wins. It's very entertaining. And a pro tip, if you have seltzer water before, you're really going to get that winning burp.
Oh, good. I needed that pro tip. And because we're going to talk a lot about how you play in the Sukkah and what other games you can bring in the Sukkah. And I just have this visual of all of us burping in the Sukkah. So thanks for the pro tip, because I'm not sure how I can get myself to burp on demand.
Exactly. So, or you can just go, like a lot of people just fake it. They don't usually win though. And so that's a great stress reliever too, something very unexpected, because, your parents are usually telling you how to be very proper. And one of the elements that I really wanted to capture was that feeling of sort of naughtiness. Everything, when we were at camp, we were growing up, we could go on bike rides and, be back for dinner. Kids now, and especially in a quarantine, you're so supervised. There's such a lack of freedom, which is another allure for these virtual worlds and screens. So wanted something to feel a little bit edgy, but within most parental, we call it inappropriately appropriate. So as an example.
Right. Well, and I was going to say one other thing is this idea of being naughty is when we were at camp, and I think one of the things that camp gives you, especially Jewish camp, is a structure of which to be, have the freedom to be naughty. Like we were all sneaking out and it was known, and yet there was still, we thought they didn't know, but it was very clear. And I don't think our society gives us that room anymore. And I think Judaism, especially the fact that it demands that we rejoice and celebrate together, sleeping in a hut outdoors. I mean, that's an element of, we want you to be a little bit naughty, right? So to bring a game into this is really to, I think, affirm what Judaism is commanding us to do. Okay, so go on with the game.
Okay, so basically it's very simple. You have the burp boss reads the question card, the blue card. Everybody gets 7 red cards. And
now we're getting the instructions again. Don't worry about the instructions. We don't need them. Just show us the card.
Do you have a question? I gave you.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I not only have my own set of the game, but I give them as gifts all the time. And so, and you can get them on Amazon. We'll have our technologist put the link in the chat. But okay, I pulled my first card because I think we've got to play just to give people a sample, because I think you can do this in many different ways and many different, you can make it Jewish, you can make it funny, all kinds of things. So my first card said, oh, I pulled a blue card, sorry. My first card said, my grandpa burped and it smelled like
blank.
Now you have to fill it in, right?
Yeah. So so everybody who's playing puts what they think that person, the burp boss, the person who asked the blue card, is going to choose as the best, most funny answer, right? And so I'll just read you some examples. So my grandpa burped and it smelled like 62 boxes of unsold Girl Scout cookies.
Ew.
My grandpa burped and it smelled like being angry all the time. My grandpa burped and it smelled like bowling. My grandpa burped and it smelled like preschool bathrooms. So
right, and imagine how much this makes everybody get a little bit silly, right? Like I love this idea of being in the backyard during Sukkah when, as my children said, like, I've seen you enough. I don't want to have dinner together every night. I've seen you enough, Mom. But this, going into the Sukkah, changes it up, right? Let me give you one more, because I think people need to see. So blank is better than summer vacation.
Okay. So becoming a YouTube star is better than summer vacation.
I think every kid would say that.
Trying to smell your belly button is better than summer vacation. My son might like this. Not showering for 3 days is better than summer vacation. Playing piano with your toes is better than summer vacation. And answering my parents with a grunt is better than summer vacation. And we know that world. So, so here's an example of ways that, you know, kids can showcase their sense of humor, or families can showcase their sense of humor. And it's really fun to see. Like, for instance, we did it with a group of 20 people, and a father and son kept choosing each other's answers. So you could see that there was like these two people had the exact same sense of humor, and there were a lot of funny answers. So there's a lot of like social dynamics at play. We've won a lot of awards in Scholastic. One of the reviewers said that it helped their reluctant reader want to read because they found the cards so funny.
Oh,
so
I love that. So I want to pivot to that for a second in two ways. One is it's become very much a philanthropic opportunity for you too. Like, it's not only your main job and your career, but it's also, you've taken all the values of tzedakah and really pivoted to put that into your work. Tell us a little bit about that.
So we're really proud. We have this expansion pack. You can see the yellow one, which was a video game theme, has 30 cards. It needs to work with the core deck, and it works seamlessly. But all the proceeds go to a charity called Wheels for Humanity. And basically they provide custom wheelchairs for people all over the world, which is a really important need, because if your wheelchair doesn't fit, you really don't have mobility, and it's dangerous actually. And so we'd love it if people would purchase the video game expansion pack to support that charity. Yeah.
What did you think? Why is it important for you, Stacy, to give back? I mean, many people are asked that question, but do you think that was ingrained in you from a child? Where does that come from?
Yes, I actually do think that, you know, being raised with Jewish culture, really, you know, you talk about the tribe, and it really isn't about, there is this connection to a community that is larger than you and even larger than your immediate family. And it's just really important to be of service and to be helpful if you can, and to raise other people up. That's what it means to me.
Right. And I think very much in your upbringing, you were taught that, correct?
Absolutely, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your childhood. Were you a silly kid? Were you a naughty kid?
I think that my mom and I might have different answers. I think I was a pretty good listener for a while. But I definitely am mischievous, and I've definitely passed that gene on to my son. So I'm very playful. I'm very playful. I'm very mischievous. I snuck candy into my room all the time. Definitely remember that was a big deal. And I still can't pass a gummy bear without buying it. And yes, I think especially in stressful times, sort of cracking a joke, not to get a little dark, but, my father, who's 85, he just went in for a surprise heart procedure at UCLA 2 days ago. Okay. And thank you. And I think everything's going well. Thank you. But I was with my brother and sister, and there's just a lot of humor, a lot of dark humor, a lot of gallows humor, but a lot of laughter. And I feel that community, and it feels still, even in stressful times, we use laughter as healing, as stress relief. And I think these are stressful times for everybody. And I think that there's no greater, yes, we can tell people to meditate and go for bike rides and exercise, but humor is within us to share and experience at any moment.
Well, I think you make a good point, because there's been a lot of studies that humor actually is very healing for the body. And the Jewish tradition, after Yom Kippur, our most serious, intentional day, at the very end of it, Ne'ilah is a celebration. And then we run into Sukkot, which, when you think about it, is very silly. And then we go to Simchas Torah, which is where we run around the streets with the Torah in our arms, right? There's some level of which the tradition is demanding that we balance the intensity with joy. And I think during this time, you're really promoting, how do we bring that joy? So tell me about how the game has changed. Like, is it selling more now during the pandemic, selling less? What's happened? And I know it's won a ton of awards, but tell us a little bit about how it's progressing now.
Yeah, we've decided to be exclusive on Amazon. We're part of their Launchpad program, which really sort of highlights and cultivates startups. I'm really proud that actually Amazon Launchpad had their 5-year anniversary, and they featured us in their official press release as their top selling game, with a quote in their press release. So that's a big honor. We sell out, basically as much as we can make. We're self-funded. As much as we make, we sell out every year. And we are expanding to Canada, Australia, and the UK and the EU this holiday on Amazon.
And I'm promoting a Jewish expansion pack.
Okay.
Right?
All right. Excellent.
About the lulav, and you're blank. I'd rather than shake the lulav and etrog. I'll have to write it with you.
Excellent. And we also have a few blank cards in every deck. So if your family's feeling extra creative, you can absolutely make your own cards, and you can also submit that on our website for inclusion in future packs if that's desired. And
so I want to turn to something a little more serious, which is that this was not your career. Many people are out of work, either by choice, but mostly not by choice right now, and are forced to pivot. And yesterday we had Micah Hart on, who really got laid off and then made a choice to pivot. And he really examined what it was that he wanted to do each day and how he wanted to spend his time. Your path to pivoting wasn't exactly as intentional. Can you tell us a little bit about, how you stumbled, not just how you stumbled upon it, but what advice would you give to people that are in a fulcrum moment?
Yeah. I'll be very honest. I left a corporate job that really didn't suit me, and I was in an unhappy place, and I was running out of money. And I came to a point where I had to take from my 401k, which is what, horror, the worst thing you can do, right? And I thought, this is a moment where I need to choose to bet on myself. And I guess the advice and counsel I could give anybody out there is, nobody knows, all these, even Uber, even whoever, it always starts small. And if you can solve a problem for yourself, something that you really know, something that even if it's as small as, my son doesn't want to play games that I want to play with and it's driving me crazy. We never started with, and I also think, I've been, to be candid, I'm trying to invent the next games. And now I have this pressure. I want it to be a commercial success. It's kind of like that, one hit, the second album, which is the first one when it's really driven by pure creativity, pure inspiration, pure, personal meaning. That's going to be your best swing out of the gate. So just start really small, start with a 3-foot toss and do what you know. And don't worry about all the things that you don't know. All it takes is asking for advice, asking for questions for just the next right step. And it's possible for everybody.
Well, I love that you shared your learnings with all your friends. Like, I remember it in early stages. It didn't look fancy like it did now. Like, it was in early stages and you just kept talking about it. And I think one of the things that Judaism talks a lot about, and you've mentioned, is community. And that we learn together in Havruta, in partnership and in friendship. And I've learned so much from you. And I think especially with this game, you really focused on, like, how do people play it? Are you having fun? Are they laughing? Like, I remember you said to us with our own family, like, just play the game and tell me what happens. And the first time our son turned to me and goes, "You're really not going to burp, Mom," right? And I was like, oh yeah. And thinking to myself, I don't think I can, right? But like, just having that conversation was so dear and so precious. So people are going to be in the sukkah all week, right? Maybe you're going to go to a friend's sukkah. Maybe you're going to sit in your own sukkah. Maybe you're going to think about sitting in a sukkah, right? But we are in this very fragile hut that's supposed to be temporary, but it's supposed to be permanent during these 8 days. And these holiday hacks, playing games, are sort of ways to fill the time and to make it really joyful. So tell me some other games that you love to play.
Okay. So we live next to Bailey's grandparents. And there's this game called, I think it's from England, it's called Snake Oil. And it's really like and it's another card game I'm showing. And you have to pitch. They give you like a weird career. I can't even think because it's not my game, but they give you like a weird career and you have to pitch 2 other items that this person would want. So I'm doing a terrible, horrific job of explaining it. But it's not the most exhilarating game, but the dynamics that come up, like my son, who is now 13 and a half and thinks nothing I do is entertaining, but seeing how his grandmother and grandma come up with ideas is so endearing and so charming. And so I think you need to try a bunch. And as the kids' ages change, their, what resonates changes also. But I think it's the importance of trying, because you will find one, even if you kind of go off the rules, break the rules, make up your own rules. It's always unexpected, because in this time of Zoom, in this time of remote learning, in this time of all the technology, you can't replace human dynamic. And that is where the magic happens. And that's why I'm so passionate about offline play, because there's something really amazing that happens when people come together as humans. And I think we all know that, and that's what we're missing right now.
I think we're missing it more than ever. So I'm going to open it up to our audience for some questions. I've already got some questions coming in. Go ahead and put it on the Q&A. And if you're just joining us, we are at B'Yachad Together, spirited by American Jewish University, talking to Stacy Katz, the founder and creator of Not Parent Approved, the most fun card game you will ever play with your children. It's funny, what is it? Citizens of Humanity? What's it called?
Cards Against Humanity?
Cards Against Humanity. It's like too raunchy. My kids want to play that, my older kids, and it's too raunchy. Like, I want to play this game, and they always say like, "Oh yeah, this is so much more fun, Mom, because you don't get so embarrassed and awkward." So I like that this is all our kids from ages, 10 to 20 can play. So we have a couple questions coming in. The first one is, why did you choose that particular charity for the expansion pack?
To be honest with you, having worked in public relations for many years, often when you choose a very big established organization, there's a lot of protocol hierarchy just to even collaborate, especially during a gift that gives back time frame. My cousin Lauren has cerebral palsy, and my wonderful aunt and uncle and the Shapiro family helped found United Cerebral Palsy, and Wheels for Humanity is an offshoot of United Cerebral Palsy. And also very few people, they don't have a huge PR machine highlighting their beautiful work. So I just, one, it was, you know, easy to work with them. I knew that it was a really reputable organization that didn't have the opportunity to have some light shown on them. And so and I think it's a beautiful cause.
Well, and it's so funny because our whole mission is to shine a light on people and humans doing amazing work in the world that elevates Jewish wisdom and Jewish values. And so we're shining a light on you today. Let me ask you another thing. Parents in this day and age feel like we have to be the circus performers, like constantly entertaining. And what do you suggest for the parent that is overworked, overtired, and just done? I mean, my parents just sent me out to play and I came back when it was dark. And sometimes I feel just defeated. Like I haven't come up with, I'm not the most creative mom. I'm not the best mom. What do you say to those parents, especially as we enter almost the 8th month of this shutdown?
First of all, solidarity. I'm completely with you. And one of the reasons I created this is because I am not that, you know, when people tell me and they share on Instagram and they're like, I cleaned out my closet and I did this, I'm like, ew, gross. Like I'm barely keeping it together. So I'm with you. And the struggle is real. You know, I work from home, you know, just getting him to log into the Zoom and the portal and the Google Classroom. It's hard to get your stuff done, let alone feel playful. So I think, it also depends on what ages your kids are. It's not easy, and there isn't an easy solve. And I'm just going to be very real and candid that I think, you know, one of my mantras is to use kind words towards myself and kind words to my family members. And especially because we're not feeling a lot of that energy in the world right now. And when you can get to a place where you're just feeling more compassion, especially for yourself as a parent, that rolls to your kid. And that when you feel less cranky, grumpy, bitter, frustrated, that gives space for more creativity and more energy to play. But honestly, take a nap, shut your door, put your headphones on, take a bath, go for a walk around the block. I think it starts first with giving some love to yourself, and that will free up some room. And I think you just have to try a bunch of things. Like I can't tell you how many art supplies I bought that like were never opened, and it's a little painful. But
right. No, we're the same way. And I was just going to say too, that this idea of being playful feels like a far cry from where we're at now. And one of our listeners said, you know, it feels a little indulgent to be playful right now. What do you say to that person?
I vehemently disagree because I think acting stressed out, freaked out, worried doesn't contribute to solutions. It doesn't contribute to an enjoyable family life or a personal life. And it's the difference between reacting and responding, right? Mm-hmm. You're stressed out, you know, being worried and stressed out all the time is not a place where you can come up with solutions and good stuff. So I think that the more that you can do to respond and not react, it doesn't mean that you're checked out. It doesn't mean that you're not concerned about the world. But that riding on that energy is not healthy for your family unit, and it's not healthy for yourself, in my humble opinion.
What memory from camp, from that kind of play is your most memorable?
Oh my gosh. I remember having a lot of crushes on boys. I'm going to be honest. I remember a lot of like the singing and the dancing. Mm-hmm. And I remember, what was that handball game? It's the like Gaga. It's like a handball thing where you're just.
Yeah, Gaga.
Gaga, where you're like.
We played a lot of Gaga.
Is it when you throw it and you try to tag the person out?
Yeah.
That was probably you could get sued for. I don't know if they still play Gaga anymore. It's too dangerous.
But it's interesting. A lot of things that we did at camp, we wouldn't do in our regular life, right? We got to reinvent ourselves. We didn't play Gaga at school, but we played it all summer long at Ramah, right? Nonstop, playing that in that pit, right? And I think there's some level to which this moment is beckoning us to go back to our playful selves, right? Even if you don't feel like it, almost acting as if. And I think the Sukkah is staring at us, literally, mine is staring at us from the backyard saying, you know what? You just built a hut in the backyard in the middle of a pandemic, right? There's nothing sillier than that in the middle of Westwood, right? So how can you bring that same spirit of silliness and joy into the Sukkah, right? And it's not natural that we would bring it in. So games is one way. Anything else you would suggest besides alcohol?
Yes. Well, I'm not sure that I would recommend Gaga with your family. I think that could get really dangerous. And
yeah, I'm not even sure. I mean, at Ramah, we still play, but I know, and at Alamein we still play, but I know it's not.
Intentions are too high for that. So I don't recommend that. I think music is really helpful. I think letting your kids make the playlists. I found that to be really interesting. I mean, some of the tunes are excruciating with, you know, what the young kids are liking these days, but you have to go with it. And, you know, but letting them.
We do holiday playlist for every single holiday. I let Aaliyah, our musical file, I don't know what that word is. I let her pick all the music, and she picks these crazy Sukkah videos, Yom Kippur videos, Rosh Hashanah videos. They're all on YouTube. So I love that idea.
Yeah, and also I think having each person bring one thing. So because there's so little, again, I go back to the theme of like, there's so little autonomy that especially the kids have. So asking them what's one thing they want to bring that they think would bring, you know, fun, stress relief, whatever. And again, it's what you said, Sherry, we have to fake it till we make it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not feeling playful, you know, but just even having the intention, like, you know, to please bring me a moment of levity in this bananas world. But yeah, I think it's an important value.
It's so interesting that you said that, because so much of Sukkot especially is about intention, right? What direction are we putting our heart in as we do these mitzvot of build the sukkah and build the lulav and shake the lulav and etrog, which in itself is so silly, right? Shaking around with that lulav and etrog and, you know, flipping that lemon-like thing. And what are we going to make our etrog into this year? So one final question, Stacey, and then we'll wrap up. Beyond not parent approved, what else are you going to bring in your sukkah or in my sukkah this year? What intention, what game, what else are you going to bring in?
Well, one, we are all of our religious, it's all about the food. It's all about the eating. I love to set a beautiful table because I'm a terrible cook. So I really like ambiance. So I'm about like the candles and the tablecloths. And I know that it's a weird time. So in non-COVID times, I like to bring in friends who are not Jewish, because I think and especially in the world today, being inclusive and just sharing good times with people, you know, breaking bread, it's always about tribe and community. And that's something that you've really shown me, Sherry, in non-COVID times. Actually, there's no air quotes needed. So in non-COVID times, you're always gathering, collecting, building your community and your tribe. And especially if they're not Jewish, I think for me, it's a cultural thing. So,
right, and sharing that wisdom with the world, Jewish, not Jewish, is really what is bringing in guest, ushpizin, into the sukkah. Stacy, I want to thank you first and foremost for being one of the bestest friends in my whole life. I adore you. But I also want to, that big virtual hug, but I also want to thank everyone who listened today, because what you did is you prioritized play. And in a world where that is not a priority at this moment, and it's so easy to be literally drowning in sorrow and anxiety and frustration, you took 45 minutes for yourself to really nurture your soul and to laugh a little bit. Let us all say amen to this morning, and thank you so much. Stay well, be well.